Hi all, I'm Rick and this is a video. So, Romulans are one of my favourite sci-fi species, definitely my top Trek one. A lot of that can be attributed to their ship designs, especially the Deredex and Mogai Warbirds. But it's not only the style of the vessels that makes them stand out for me, but the primary technology at play within its emerald hull. When it comes to warp travel, massive amounts of energy are needed to create a stable warp field that can bend space-time and allow for a ship to propel itself at faster than light speeds. Most races in the Trek universe eventually settle on the controlled annihilation of matter and antimatter to produce energy of a sufficient level to generate the effect needed, using magnetic containment to maneuver the volatile antimatter and then running the reaction through a dilithium matrix to create incredible amounts of power. How did I write that sentence without any full stops? Then all sorts of difficult supercomputer level calculations go on to generate a warp field from a starship's nacelles around the ship, and then there you go, warp bubble. Apply momentum and off you fly on your wibbly pocket of warped space-time. That last part is consistent across all forms of warp travel. It's what makes the warp drive a warp drive, and we've already explored other versions of FTL travel. But whereas this is how it's done for Starfleet, the Klingons, Vulcans and practically every other species, it's not how the Romulans fly. They, the crazy bastards that they are, took one look at the cosmic destruction of matter and antimatter at a subatomic level and said, "Nah, too tame. Let's whip a black hole in our spaceships and use that to generate power. That would be metal as of a rule." It may be ad-libbing a bit. But the point is that Romulans decided to use artificial quantum singularities instead of the traditional warp core at the centre of its vessels as a power source. These were effectively micro black holes, but the knowledge of how they are formed is kept secret from the Federation, although possibilities include the use of red matter to make a collapsed point, or the collision of high energy particles in an accelerator of some sort. Once created, the Singularity would generate powerful gravitational forces, so an apparatus around the point would be needed to counter its effects, which is no biggie. We already know variable gravity is a common technology in the Trek universe. This may be the nullifier cores that are aligned around the Singularity, which also regulated the rate of emitted radiation. This radiation is created by the fluctuations and may be based on the speculated Hawking radiation theories to emit from real-life black holes, and it's most likely the energy source that the Romulans then harnessed. When the nullifier cores are precisely aligned and everything is functioning as it should, the Romulan core is easily masked by a cloaking device, but should there be even a slight misalignment, the slightest ripples in space-time caused by the Singularity can be detected as intermittent distortion. We know that they harnessed some energy from the black hole and then used that to supply power to a warp drive, as a Romulan vessel still has nacelles for bending space-time. In theory, however, and with a much bigger Singularity and a lot of advanced tech, a ship could perhaps use a black hole itself to bend space-time and achieve a warp-like effect, but the core of a Romulan vessel is not at this level of power, nor technological advancement. Another possibility is that they constantly feed fuel of some sort above the event horizon, and somehow the rotating particles are used to influence the rotation of the Singularity to generate power. This method is known as the Penrose process and would eventually deplete a core of its rotational movement and in effect become an equivalent to a fuel limit. One weakness of the Singularity core, however, is linked to its very nature as a gravitational hole in space-time. Several instances of unintentional time travel have been linked to the cores of Romulan warbirds, usually where they were an unknown variable. Another issue is that once powered on for the first time, the Singularity core cannot be deactivated. Perhaps this is because once the Singularity core is powered down, the forced quantum singularity dissipates, as it was an artificial one in origin and only exists for as long as it is kept stable by the reactor chamber. Of course, the most dangerous part about sitting on a contained black hole is that you need to keep it contained. just as a breach in the antimatter containment system of a Federation starship will lead to a runaway reaction of the antimatter reacting with matter outside of the warp core, and then an explosion, a breach in the Singularity core's gravimetric containment would create a corridor of space open to the full effects of the black hole. In short, once containment fails, the Singularity devours. In the shows, we see Romulan warbirds explode, and I'd speculate that that's because the core shuts down and then the Singularity dissipates before the ship breaks apart. But in Star Trek Online, we can see that when a Romulan vessel is defeated, it collapses in on itself in an implosion as a containment failure plays out. It's a nice touch and very consistent with the lore. Whatever the Trek science behind the operation of the forced quantum singularity core of a Romulan warbird, I think it's a unique trait that marks out the Romulan species as a people who like to stand out from the others. I can almost picture them not using a standard matter-antimatter reactor just because everyone else does, and the Romulans are superior to everyone else. Naturally. Thanks for watching this Quantum Point of a Lore episode, and until the next video, I'm Rick, and I'll see you later. Joel and True.